Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Ben, your personal financial coach. So happy to be with you once again today. I want to get straight into the video, and what I want to discuss with you today is I usually talk a lot about doing velocity banking strategy with a first position HELOC. Today I'm going to show you how the strategy can be implemented using a second position HELOC instead of a first position. And why I wanted to do this is because I've been working with this client now almost about a year, and he's done an amazing job to get himself into the position. He's paid off a lot of credit card debt. He's got himself now a real strong cash flow on a monthly basis. But however, he's come to the point where he's not quite sure if the velocity banking strategy is going to be something that'll be beneficial for him. And the main reason why is because he's focusing on this interest rate. He has a mortgage right now. The mortgage is 3.38. Okay. The challenge could be, listen, we have to not only go by the mortgage interest rate, but let's look at the longer cost of it. So he's about to enter 9 years with that particular mortgage. They bought it basically 9 years ago for 124. And if we look, right, in the 9 years since he's owned the home, had that particular mortgage, we've only paid $30,000 off to the principal. So we need to pause and we need to really take a look at that. In 9 years, $30,000 has been paid off on the principal, even with an interest rate of 3.38. And that's partly because the principal and interest portion of his payment is $529.34 roughly. That's what's impacting the principal and the interest. Now he's come to the point in the loan 9 years later where he's going to cross, meaning that more of his payment is going to go toward the principal than toward the interest. I think starting this month, $265 is actually going to go, and $264 is going to go to the principal. So he's about at that cross period. So again, if we take a step back, right, and we remove our emotions from a particular rate and we start to think logically, right, we know that we have a goal. Our goal is to pay off debt. Paying off debt in a mortgage is not going to work, right, if we keep it in a mortgage, even with a low interest rate. Now, the difference, if this client were to say, hey, I want to take my extra cash flow, and because I have such a low interest rate, I want to invest and I want to 10 times or 100 times this $3,280 in cash flow every single month, more power to you, right? Because now you're actually taking that cash flow and you are investing it in something safe and secure that has guarantees and basically is going to give you that benefit 10, 15 down your road. Years down the road, which is important to him for a client because he's entering his 50s now. But if that isn't the case, right, and in the case as expressed to me is I want to pay off debt, I want this mortgage debt free. He has a family, still younger kids that he needs to put through college and things like that. Then we need to switch the strategy and we need to take our eyes off of the 3.38 and we need to really consider the cost, right? That cost for not making a decision on the mortgage is really costing us over the long term. So now what I've done is here, this is a strategy using the second position home equity line of credit. Now, I don't want to include the special interest rate. I simply want to show that even though he can take option number one, which is something that he's thought about, which is maybe potentially sending, if he's not going to invest this, well, let's send extra payments. Maybe I'll send an additional $3,000 every single month to that $93,500 so that I can pay off the home a lot sooner. He could definitely do that. What would happen is doing that, it would take 11 years and 4 months. Now, from the beginning of when he bought the home, it would be a total of 136 payments and a total of $36,657.34 of interest that would have been paid throughout that entire time period. What happens though is that you're definitely risking the $3,000 extra, right? If you are a homeowner, when the home needs repairs, it's just a matter of time before something goes wrong in the home and you need to repair it, right? That would be at risk here. If you're not investing it and you're going to be sending all the cash flow into the mortgage company, remember, every dollar you send the lender, you don't see that dollar unless you go back and ask them for a refinance again for the same money that you already sent them. And if that were to happen, he would definitely lose that 3.38 interest rate. So how can we do this in such a way that will better position him to get kind of like the best of both worlds? And that's what this second position HELOC is going to do for him. Okay. So what we're going to do is this. Right now, this is his mortgage, $93,500, right? We're going to not touch that. We're going to leave that alone. We're going to conserve the 3.38%. Okay. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to apply for a home equity line of credit, and then we're going to leverage that home equity line of credit, and we're going to make what's called chunk payments of $20,000 every 6 months. Now, the home right now is valued at about $255,000. Remember, that's the value, and what is owed is $93,500. So there's definitely a huge amount of equity. But in order to get the best rate, what we're going to do is we're going to apply for at least $100,000, and that's going to assure that we're going to get the best rate. So I'm putting down the best rate as a 7.13. I'm not including the promotional period that this bank is actually offering right now. So I'm not including that, which if I included the promotional period, it would be 0.25% for the first 6 months. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show it with the 7.13 so that you can see realistic numbers even without a promotional rate. And that's what this is doing. So what first thing we're going to do is we're going to take $20,000 from the home equity line of credit, and we're going to send it to the mortgage payment. Once we do that, that is going to immediately impact the principal that is owed on the mortgage. It's going to drop it to $73,500, right? And now comes the part of the velocity banking strategy. Well, a couple of basic things when it comes to velocity banking. We know now we're going to have a mortgage payment, right, which is included here in the expenses, right? But now there's going to be an additional expense in the sense of the home equity line of credit. Well, the simple solution to that is when he gets paid twice a month, what he will be doing is he will be sending his entirety of his income twice a month, he and his wife, to the home equity line of credit, which will have a balance of $20,000 on it because it was used to pay down the principal. When he does that, that income is going to be considered a payment, right? Now, throughout the course of the month, he's making basically income payments into his line of credit. We also know that he will be making a payment to the mortgage of $1,149.28, but that can stay in the home equity line of credit until the 1st or the 5th or the 15th, the day, whenever it is that he actually pays his mortgage. Meaning what? The bulk of his income is going to be conserved and stay in the home equity line of credit throughout the course of the month. His expenses, that's what this part is. This number is actually expenses. His expenses are going to be deducted from that home equity line of credit, right? So we have to add that back in. And we also had to add every single time at the end of the month his income. So we got three major numbers: income, expenses, and the interest. What that means is, how does that impact month number 2? Well, month number 2, he's going to start it at $16,841.03. And then we are just going to use the rinse and repeat. Income is going to be going in. His expenses is going to be coming out. And basically the interest is going to be calculated. Now, the key thing is, and why we're using this strategy is because what we want to know is how long does it take him to pay back this $20,000 and bring that home equity line of credit down to a zero. Well, if we look at the rinse and repeat method, right? Every month he's going to be applying the same strategy where income is going to be deposited into the home equity line of credit. Then we're going to bring out his expenses, which include his mortgage, right? And the interest. We know that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in month number 6, he's going to enter with a balance of $4,012.02. Well, let me ask this. If that's his balance at the beginning of the month, we can very accurately figure out that the income that he's going to be depositing into that particular HELOC for that particular month is going to be suffice to liquidate this and bring this to a zero in a period of 6 months. That is amazing. So that's just the beginning part of the strategy, because what's happening in the background? Well, remember, he chose to stay in the 3.38 mortgage loan that he had. So that means that throughout the course that this 6 months is going on, he's also making payments to the mortgage, which at the time when he started this was at 73,500. So now we fast forward, Rob, we go 6 months later to this, and now this 71,500 or 73,500 is really right around 71,500, because initially he paid down 20,000 to the principal. He continued to make payments throughout the 6 months, which brought it 73,500 down to 71,500. Now we know that in 6 months he was being diligent, and he was also attacking this home equity line of credit, depositing his income into that. So in 6 months he repeats the process again, and he makes another $20,000 chunk, right? Another $20,000 chunk in the following 6 months, right? So now we see that it took him initially 20,000 here, another 6 months later is another 20,000, 51,500 is going to be what he's going to have as a balance for the next 6 months, or the next time he starts to implement the strategy, right? So what does that mean? Well, let's move forward 6 months. We already know that based upon his income and expenses, we already know that it's going to take this family 6 months to pay back the home equity line of credit, to pay back that chunk payment of 20,000. So we can just do simple calculations. 6 months later, we can see that 51,500, obviously it's a lot less now. He's going to continue to make mortgage payments using that rate. So now we're going to be at around 61,000. Let's say it's about 49,000. Look at that. And what are we going to do? We're going to make another chunk payment of 20,000. What does that do? That means that now we owe, after the initial 1, 2, on the third payment, or the third chunk payment from the home equity line of credit, the balance on our mortgage is going to remain at $29,000. So I'm pretty sure by now you get the picture here. When you implement this strategy and you're using $20,000 chunks, you could obviously chunk more, because if you're getting a HELOC with a second position HELOC, and you can use up to $100,000, and obviously you can chunk more. The more you chunk, the faster you will pay this off. But I wanted to use just 20,000 because it's right around 6 months worth of cash flow, and it's a good measuring rod for how to strategically put this plan into place. But when you use this plan, right, when you start implementing the velocity banking strategy, what that means is option 2, you chunk $20,000 every 6 months from your HELOC. You will make a total of 131 payments, including what he has already made throughout the first course of the 9 years. And in a total of 10 years and 11 months, right, which is 5 months less than this particular plan, he's totally, completely paid off the mortgage, and he's only paid $35,699.73 in interest to get that. Now, that's just on the surface, right? Because he could surely, definitely send this payment. He could probably, if he sends these extra $3,280 to the mortgage, he would probably finish it off just in the same amount of time. But what does he have with this strategy at the end of the 2-year frame, right? Or at the end of the 10 years and 11 months? Well, he has a paid off home, right? That home during that time, I'm estimating that it's going to increase probably 3% a year. So if it's worth $255 now, in the next 2 years, it'll be worth about $270,500. Plus, he also has an additional $100,000 and a line of credit that he can use now to start doing investing, which is something that he wanted to do as well. I'm not talking about investing like in the market, but like real estate investing, all by leveraging this particular strategy. And the sooner that it's implemented is better, because if one of the things that can be a stunt to this particular strategy, if there's a loss in income, then that $2,280 is not going to be something that is sustainable, because again, the loss in income would definitely impact that. So here is much more sustainable, because every time you're paying down this $20,000 and you're sending it to pay down the principal, your payment on a monthly basis is also going to be dropping for your home equity line of credit. So these are the two strategies, right? These are the two options. This is another way that you can use the chunk payment to actually pay down your particular mortgage. And again, if it's a strategy, if it's a goal of yours to pay off your debt, your mortgage debt, then this is another way. Instead of doing the first position, I just show you how you can do it in the second position, but the results are going to be very similar. So I hope this makes a lot of sense with you. Good luck to you if you're trying this particular strategy. If you need any help, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you out with that. And if you have any comments, concerns, or questions that you'd like to make, please put them down below as I continue to review them and answer them just as quickly as I can. Until the next episode, thanks again for tuning in. Take care and God bless.